Hey, Michael here from Growing Farmers in the Farm on Central, and I wanted to talk about laying plastic today. So this is actually a biodegradable plastic, and so there's black version, and this is actually a striped version, which actually is more of a white or a gray, so it's going to decrease the temperature of the ground. And so we're doing a comparison, A-B comparison between the two on our garlic crop. There is some studies that show that white may decrease the temperature enough in the summer to help increase bulb size. So that's why we're doing that. But let's talk through a couple pointers for laying plastic. Now, a lot of people use ground cloth. And the thing about ground cloth is it lasts longer, but there are some downsides. First, you got to burn the holes in it. Second, between years, if you're going to reuse it, you have to sanitize it for best results. And third, it's hard to lay. So with a biodegradable fabric like this, you get in a roll of about 5,000 feet, about $300, $350, depending on where you're buying it from. This roll will last us a couple different years between the two different colors we've got, depending on the size of farm you are. But there's farmers that do hundreds of acres of this biodegradable, and it works great. So let's talk through laying plastic. With this, especially with the biodegradable, you want to make sure you don't have a ton of tension on this. You want to actually keep this relatively loose when you're laying it. So you can see here, it's stretched across, but there's still a little bit of tension, not a lot, not super tight. And what will happen is when the sun hits it, it will tend to tighten up a little bit. Now, if you notice on here, they've got these pre-lines, and they say to make sure that you don't stretch it beyond 5 inches. And if we're looking right here, we're right at 5 inches. So we haven't stretched it at all. Now, depending on the mulch layer you've got, this one here is a relatively simple version from Nolts. It's great though. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it being simple like this. You got your rollers here, and it's unrolling, and it also lays a drip tape. This is actually a rain flow drip tape aspect that we put on the Nolts layer because the rain flow one has a better break compared to the Nolts one just doesn't have a break. And what happens if you're laying super fast, you can actually spool at the end of the row, and this actually has a break to prevent that. So, and it can also allow us to lay 2 rows of drip tape at once, which we'll sometimes do depending on what we're trying to lay for. So some crops you do want to put 2 lines of drip down. But here we go. The biggest thing about getting this set up is getting it adjusted right at the beginning. And so you definitely want to reserve like 4 or 5 hours once you get the brand new unit to kind of set it up properly. And a couple different key adjustments is going to be how you have it tilted in the soil. You can see here how we've got it tilted slightly forward. And what that's doing is that's gathering it together and giving us a nice firm seed bed. We've also, if you come up close, you can see here, oops, we've got actually a little bit of, there we go, clean that out. There's a little shield right here, or actually, I guess you call it another plow right in here. And that's actually taking some of the middle soil and pushing it more toward the middle to make sure the middle is nice and full. That's one of the problems you can get, is that if you don't have those in there, I guess they're called center fillers, this in the middle will actually have a divot in there. Especially if you have more of a clayish or a heavier soil, it's just harder to keep that plastic in there. Another aspect too would be to have your wheels correct. So with this biodegradable plastic, you want the wheels almost going straight forward, just kicked out slightly. Now with regular plastic, you can kick those out much more aggressively, so you can have it a lot tighter. But with the BioTello or biodegradable, this is a film organic, you want to keep those relatively straight so you don't have a ton of tension. And then finally, you come back here, you've got your shields, and you've got your disc right here. So this is going to take a lot of adjustment. You can see this side is slightly up further than this side. And the reason for that is that when we laid this row right here, we actually stole some of the soil from here. And so this actually has to go deeper to grab more soil and pull it over. So you can see how that one's a little bit higher. This is a little bit lower. Another tip is we actually will only lay in one direction, and that's because at the beginning of the field, especially with a raised bed mulch layer, is you're pulling soil in for 4 or 5 feet before you actually fill your bed. And so we'll actually start before we actually want the line of the edge of the field to be, and then we'll do that so that we have a nice full bed the entire length. The other thing is so that this is adjusted correctly. You can see if we were to come back, that would then be adjusted, come up this side, and it wouldn't pull enough soil over. So that's another reason We have short field here. It's easy enough to go around. The other way to do it would be to start right in the center of your section, come down, turn around, go back, and then just keep going in like bigger and bigger circles around that middle one right there. We've seen that done as well, if you're not worried about making your ends super tight. Let's walk down. So you can see here, yeah, we talked about the different aspects of this. Drip tape, always want your drip tape up. So you can see the white line up. That means the emitters are on the top of the drip tape. For the tractor, this is a very small tractor, but it's a heavier tractor, so it's fine. The biggest thing with having a tractor to pull it is it's heavy enough. I've seen utility tractors used, which means that you're going to have wider tires, which means you're compacting more area. They all will work. You just don't want to have like the whole middle packed down. And another thing you'll see is we've got a sway bar on this. This is actually an older style sway bar. Some of the other tractors, newer tractors, will just have like sway chains. And this has a sway chain, but it's not adjustable. So that's why we've got this sway bar here. But that's super important to keep your plastic layer from swinging back and forth. The other thing too is your top link. So your top link is going to adjust how the entire mulch layer is oriented. And if you do have a tractor with live hydraulics and a hydraulic remote, it's worth having a hydraulic top link, which allows you to actually feather as you're going down the bed. So at the end of the bed, you can just easily feather that back in, and they'll raise it and allow it to dump the excess soil you've been dragging along, which is super nice. All right, let's go down to the end. Actually, let's take a stop here on the front here. Now, if you notice, look at this chain right here. So we got this chain, and this chain is just taped on here with duct tape, and it's just so it gives me the line of where when I'm looking from the tractor seat, I'm looking down, and I'm trying to line that up with the edge of this cut soil. And that allows me to keep the beds perfectly spaced apart. Now, let's walk to the end, because the other thing is to keep them straight. And you can have some better success than others at keeping them straight. And usually what I find is the first bed, you're going to just sight right down the field and pick a point at the far end that you're going to drive towards. It's super key to actually have two people when you're laying plastic. Obviously, the one person is going to help set the end, hold the tape, and we'll show a little video of what that looks like. And then the person who's on the tractor, their job is to drive straight and straight only. They're not to look back at all. When you look back, you're going to yank your wheel a little bit and get a little bit non-straight. And if you're going to cultivate, or just for us who are a little bit obsessive compulsive about having straight rows, it's great to be able, for the next couple of months, be able to look down that straight row. So you can see here how we've gone a little bit past the end here, this plastic. It's a few feet past, and what we'll do is then we'll come back and line up exactly where the end is, take our shovel, clean this out, and then get our end nice and tight right here on the end. So you can see how we've gone a little bit past that. You can come over here, see these straighter rows. These are okay. This one's, especially that one right there, is a little bit crooked, but these are better. As we get over here, we get better and straighter. Because again, when you start, you usually get that one super straight. This one's actually pretty good right here too. But just another note on the end, you can see how we've got it nice and taped and down in the soil. So we'll take a shovel, clean that out, pull that back, pull our drip tape through, and then put some soil back in there. Normally we'll come back this entire field, put down landscape fabric between the beds or straw, and then at the ends is our hedgerows as well, to make sure we keep the weeds down and just kind of set that block up. Because this block will be in existence till end of next June. So we'll be in existence for a while, so we want it to look nice and keep those weeds down. So there you go. There are some basic tips for laying plastic. And again, it's a effective system. And you can see here, we actually laid ground cloth with the plastic layer. So you can do it. We just did it as a trial. We wanted to see if we actually had better yields, because this allowed it to breathe better. And we also did our time trials on this. And this took about twice as long to lay. And again, laying's not a big deal because it's about 3 minutes per bed to lay it. So this took about 6 minutes. But it then took us time to go and punch all the holes. So we had to go punch all the holes and pick up all the little pieces that came out of that punching. And so that took about another 6 or 8 minutes. So it took about 3 to 4 times as long to lay. We're gonna do a test to kind of see what that looks like. And it didn't lay down here as well. So you can see how it kind of didn't lay as well. So I think we've got plenty on there to hold this down, but it's just not as neat. All right, wrap it up. There you go. a little bit of training on laying plastic. Hopefully that was helpful. Again, if you have other questions, drop those below and go ahead, give us a like, subscribe to our channel. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out. We are always interested in helping you be a thriving farmer.